everyone for one last time here in Paris for our second Worlds 2024 semi-final between Gen G and T1. Something that is written in the stars that should be one of the best of fives we see all tournament, and I certainly hope so. Here are our protagonists in Chovy and Gen G heading into the Adidas Arena in front of so many fans. But it will not surprise you that many of them are cheering for T1 and Faker, the reigning world champion, as they take their place here in Paris. I'm incredibly excited for today. I'll be a little sad that we have to leave this wonderful arena because it has been stellar, but let's guide you through it. My name is Shock, joined here by Kobe, Emily, and Dagda for what will hopefully be a crazy day. Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, this should be an absolute banger. It's nice that we never really get to see these teams face off against each other, so we get something new. It's going to be enjoyable, yeah.
I see. Let me ask you something. The slogan for Worlds is "Make them believe." Who do you think it's most applicable to today?
I think personally, for me, it's T1. I mean, they stumbled into Worlds. They've really started to ramp up over the course of it. It feels like T1 have a lot to prove, but they have been showing it now in the main event.
It is always cool how, T1, they can just slump in summer, they can lose to Gen G all year long to create this storyline. And they're like, yeah, we're the underdogs. The reigning champs are underdogs, with Gen G having such a good record versus them.
But we were spoiled already.
Yeah, I was going to say, I cheated because I overheard it in the makeup room. It's Chovy and Gen G, so you're both wrong.
That's from the Korean community. That's what Laura was telling us. But of course, it works for either way. Now let's talk about the bracket and how it stands. Yesterday, I think we were left wanting just a little bit in terms of how that series played out and hoping that it will be different today.
All right, the series might have been 3-0, but I'm so happy for this BLG team. It was great to kick off the day with the Bin jacket throw and then bookend it with his very sincere, heartfelt interview at the end of the day. And then looking ahead, he wants to face T1 coming out of this. He really wants that matchup against Zeus. But it was just so cathartic to finally see them overcome their unexpected demons in Weibo Gaming and make it to the World's Finals.
I mean, that team is already, there's so many, legends there. I swear, Bin is a living legend of top lane already. If he can get his hands on the Summoner's Cup on a World Championship.
And a Jack skin? Oh, yeah.
If Knight could do it, it's epic already that they're waiting for whoever wins today.
It is really awesome, but of course we need to find out who is going to join them. So let's send it over to Laura to see how the fans voted in our MasterCard fan predictions.
It is absolutely insane here. You see the fans here? Some of them have been here waiting for the players since 8 a.m. You see some drawings of the players, the Korean signs as well, even some flags. And even if 75% of the fans think that T1 is gonna win, there's also some love for Gen G here. But let's ask some T1 fans what they think. How long have you been waiting here?
I've been waiting here since 9 this morning, I think. 9, yeah.
How was it seeing them arrive at the venue?
Amazing. My heart is racing like crazy.
Well, let's ask them actually, who thinks T1 is gonna win today? All right, who thinks Gen G is gonna win today? One thing is sure, it's gonna be a banger, Shocks.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Kintex here. Hello and welcome to the LCK 2022 Summer Finals. We are here. Hello and welcome to the 2023 Spring Grand Finals pre-show. I am Valdez.
And welcome everyone to the 2023 LCK Summer Rory Bank 1 Grand Finals in Daejeon, South Korea.
안녕하세요, 에블리입니다. 오늘은 T1 Gen G 2024 Autumn Finals.
I mean, it does feel like we kind of got cheated out of in summer, right? 3 years since T1 hadn't made it to a finals, Hanwha stopped them. 2 years since Gen G hadn't won that finals and Hanwha stopped them. But we still get it for Worlds, so it kind of works out in the long run, you know?
Yeah, it works out for sure. Now, to get us going, we did prepare a little quiz for you because it is T1 versus Gen G again, and there is a lot of stuff, so you can grab your whiteboards and I will ask a question. Then if you want to answer immediately, you very much can, but it will be a 20-second timer. I'll just wait till you're all prepared.
Okay.
All right, so in this question, you get a point for every answer because it's twofold. Here we
Okay.
go. Gen.G has 10 straight series wins versus T1, which is the longest win streak in their head-to-head history. But what was the previous longest streak between them, and when? It is hard, I know. 10 seconds? I think you're all kind of guessing, to be fair. 5,
Oh, the long.
2, 1. You're done. You're done. We're done.
I have no. I
All right, what do we got? What do we got?
Okay. So I got T1 2022, well, 2019 to
Oh, they're
2022,
going
and a
backwards.
6th streak.
Sick.
Yeah.
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 So
I
we
thought
have
it was
the
only,
same
I put only
years.
4.
I have T1 won 9 straight, spring 2019 to summer 2020.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah,
So almost.
It was difficult. Okay, also 2 points here. How many consecutive best of 5s has T1 won at Worlds is the first part. And what is the longest streak all time? Also of them. I think this should be easier because we're going, just count backwards, I guess.
Best ofs, right?
Wait.
Best ofs.
Series.
Series. Okay. Yeah.
4. Oh, I shouldn't have said that out loud.
7. Oh my God, Emily.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, stop. All right, show me your answers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chovy.
7.
I mean, they beat all of the LPL last year, and then they beat TES this year.
It's 4.
4. Oh.
Is 4.
Why did you take it away?
I should have erased it. No!
And the longest was T1 won 10 consecutive best of 5s in 2017.
Oh, we got one half. Let's go.
You got that?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Nice.
All
I'm
right.
running it down.
Question 3 is worth 1 point. How many consecutive international matches, best of 1, best of 3, best of 5, has Gen.G won?
How many consecutive international
Oh.
Matches, yeah.
and best of 1s?
Yes. We're counting everything.
Is this year or all time? Like.
All time, I guess.
All
Oh
time?
my God.
It's gonna take a while to count
Oh,
backwards.
just MSI and Worlds and consecutive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The longest
Damn,
streak?
this is hard.
It's very hard,
Yeah, I
actually.
have to remember
be
the
fair, I
best
was
of
just given
ones.
these questions. I would definitely
Yeah.
not be able to answer them.
I feel like I'm just writing a random number. Let's do. All right. I don't know. I picked
I'm
a
going
number. I just picked a number.
MSI this year and Worlds this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 8.
Let's go.
I counted correctly.
How did that happen?
Go.
We're
Oh my
too
God.
good. I mean,
That's
I
like-
studied incredibly hard for this test and came in prepared.
That is
so I
like,
already knew my.
That's like the LEC getting a win at Worlds. Did you stumble into one somehow?
So
We
this
don't know
basically
how.
whole thing is counting streaks that have
It
happened.
is. I mean, yeah, it is. So, last one. Gumayusi has gone deathless for a record 7 consecutive Worlds knockout games, who previously held the record.
Of knockout games with that weird
Deathless?
qualifier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such a weird qualifier.
what?
Like, only knockout games?
Don't shoot the messenger, please.
Ah, okay.
It has to be someone who's in knockout games often.
I'm putting my...
Yeah.
Oh, hint. There was some news today.
Oh.
I already have it. I already read it before the
But the number also, right?
Oh. Wait,
Yeah,
the
well,
numbers,
it's
oh,
fine.
Okay, yeah.
You all got it
You
correct.
said who? You said
Yeah,
who?
ruler, and it was 4, but that was my
I
bad.
was
It
gonna
was
guess
2017.
We wrote it before the hint, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I did not. Not
Oh,
even
you
a
didn't?
You're all winners.
I just wanted a high
I
five.
think I written down every question.
But that is crazy news. The news she's talking about is Ruler leaving JDG.
Yeah.
He's a free
And Ruler
agent.
has said in the past that he wants to end his career with Gen.G. Which is,
Oh.
I mean, Peyz
Oh
has
my
filled the
God.
spot.
I
Peyz
love
has
that.
already filled the spot.
Also, he's kind of a shadow protagonist in the minds of everybody looking at this best of 5 because, of course, Faker had the catch on him last year. Oh, I love it. It's all interwoven. Let's talk a little bit more as we have unsuccessfully played a quiz about these two teams. So I want to start with Gen.G just a little bit because they were very much pushed last week, and there was a content piece or a content they sent out about Mata in the locker room, I'm gonna say, before that game 5. Let's take a look.
진짜 괜찮아 그럼. 근데 공부하지만 않으면 괜찮아. 잘 맞고 하는 거지. 이길 수 있어, 이길 수 있어. 적으로 얘기할 거 없어. 이길 수 있어. 이겨서 하는 대로 하면 돼.
그럼 블루에서 그러면 뭐 먹죠?
시야 빨리.
I love this from Mada because even on his previous teams, he was a player, right? You heard of him like, you know, going into games, helping his AD carries learn how to CS, whoosh. But like, it's great to see that from, again, a former world champion himself. He's been there before, just trying to pump up the team in a very crucial series.
Yeah, I mean, Peyz is still 18 years old. So I actually think like going through that, you know, FlyQuest series, you know, even though, yeah, they, you know, won MSI and everything, having a veteran like that, Mada is legendary. To be able to, you know, refocus them is quite good.
Yeah, I think it also proves that we sometimes see them as these infallible demons that are so good at League, but that's not the case. All humans with those same emotions as everybody else, and when it gets to the stress in a Game 5, you do need someone to step in.
And I think they definitely did on Gen G's side. FlyQuest had them rattled, and you could see it kind of move back towards, hey, we want some comfort picks for these guys. Peyz going on to the Ziggs, having something where they could sit back and just scale into the later portion of the game. It felt like Mada knew exactly what his team needed in that moment and was giving them tools to succeed.
And speaking of the man himself, we're going to send it down to Lore, who is standing by with Mata in our Verizon Game Day interview.
Welcome to the Verizon Game Day interview. I'm joined by Coach Mata from Gen G to talk about everything that's been happening for the team last week. 안녕하세요. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to talk about what happened last week because obviously no one expected you to go 5 games against FlyQuest. I'm wondering about the impact of you guys going 3-0 in the group stage, in the Swiss stage rather, and having less time on stage to train afterwards.
영향이 없지 않다고.
I mean, I can say there was an impact. I can't really deny that, but also we are pros, you know. I feel like that's just an excuse. So I want to say we underperformed and the opponents have a great preparation. So I think that was a combination of both things.
준비를 잘해가지고 좀 고전했던 경기였던 것 같아요.
Absolutely, and I want to reflect on something Lehends told me after the series. He was like, I don't know what happened after Game 1. It felt like we were making silly mistakes. We lost our League of Legends, from what he said. How did you refocus them as a coach? How did you make sure that they were going to be able to focus on what they needed to grab the victory in the end? What was the mental process between the games?
보통 대회를 진행하면은
So usually the bigger the stage or the stakes are, the lesser feedback I give to the players. I only bring out 1 or 2 like major mistakes that would have impacted the outcome of the game. But if that's something minor, I don't really bring it up. And also on that day, I felt like my players were not on their best form and their condition. So I focused on that to make sure that they can be back at their full condition. So one thing I figured throughout my Worlds experience as a coaching staff, you know, it's also important to make the players who are not doing their best or like underperforming to kind of make them become their best form again. So I think that's also an important part.
되는 것 같습니다.
And keeping all that in mind, how do you make sure that they're going to be ready today?
일단 뭐 지난 경기에 많은 선수들이 긴장.
Even in the previous quarters, I could tell that they were pretty nervous playing the match. So I wanted to make sure that I helped them feel more relaxed. You know, I was making some jokes for them to feel a lot more comfortable. I think, yeah, the coaching staff play a big role, but also I think Worlds, it all comes down to the player. It's where the players are proving themselves. So I think it's them who has to prove themselves. So I think they have to overcome this by themselves also. And all I can do is trusting and believing in them.
믿음밖에 줄 수 없을 것 같습니다.
Well, wishing you the best for today, fighting. Thank you so much for the interview.
감사합니다.
I love it how fighting is kind of like the thank you when interviewing someone from the LCK. But yeah, I love it there about fighting the demons every single time, right? Someone who's proven that over and over and over 4 times at Worlds is Faker. Going up versus Chovy, which will be, I think, obviously one of the main storylines going into today, Kobe. It's incredible, right? And even though Chovy and Gen G have had the upper hand, there is always something in the air when it comes to Worlds and Faker.
Everybody is so ready to latch on to the Faker magic and T1 magic that honestly does exist at Worlds.
Yeah, and I mean, look, these guys constantly set records when you look at the LCK. It's like most kills and assists ever for a person is Faker. Most titles in the LCK at 10. Most worlds for Faker as well. But when you look at the opposite side for Chovy, it's the first player ever globally to hit 100 KDA. The first player ever to hit 6 back-to-back of those playoff opportunities. Like, Chovy has been so incredible for this squad as well. And now he just has to try and take down the long-standing Demon King to see if he can move on to the final spot.
But Chovy's been here before, right? Domestically. And it's only, like, it's very apropos that he has to go through Faker first domestically, then goes on this massive title streak, right? Just barely broken this past summer by HLE, but then now he has to go through Faker once again on the international stage. It's just really appropriate.
It is, and we talked so much at MSI about it felt like a dam that had to break for him to get his first international title. Well, he did it at MSI, right? So a lot of those doubts should be washed away. But let's look at how these two have done in lane, specifically in this World Championship.
Yeah, and I think Chovy has been absolutely spectacular at just trying to get the control over his laning phase, have those really high CS numbers. Whereas when you look across a Faker, it's kind of been a lot of people helping him to succeed, to go onto these late game carries where you have things like the Sylas and these kind of picks that can come alive, which only makes it more important when you see him coming out with these big gold leads that he's getting at that 14-minute mark.
And of course, those stats that you had just seen are like a lot of TES crushing stats that are pretty heavily weighted there because there's a lot less of a sample size. But if you look at the LCK stats, you know, with all of these games, Chovy had just been demolishing. Meanwhile, Faker struggled in a lot of lanes in the LCK in summer. And so now that we're at Worlds again, people are wondering, like, how powerful is the T1 glow up here? You know, change in meta, so also more comfortable champions, but Chovy is a monster.
Yeah, it also says something about Gen G's strength as a whole, right? That Chovy doesn't have to pull out these insane Chovy laning performances. I actually did think he had a really good one, very quietly actually, against FlyQuest in Game 5 as Smolder. I thought he was just actually absolutely beasting CS in that game. We see the stacks. I believe he's second in all of those at this tournament to HLE Zeka.
He also peaked really hard and won the World Championship, so it was a couple of years ago now. All-time game record, it's 53 for Faker, 52 for Chovy. I mean, it's pretty insane. But let's talk about Gen G a little bit more about how they got here, right? And the fact that, what should we take from the fact that they went all 5 games versus FlyQuest? Was it ultimately a good thing for them to iron out their mistakes, or a bad thing in that there is now so much to look at in tape for T1?
So I actually am of the opinion that it was a good thing for Gen G because, you know, they hadn't played that many games at Worlds already, and the evolution of the meta has been pretty quick. If we can pull up the Champion Select, then we'll be able to look at some of the evolution of their drafts in that series. Also, remember the first game of the series? FlyQuest absolutely got a big advantage in the lane swap versus them.
Yep.
Both Canyon and Kiin were pretty far behind. I don't know if we can pull up the actual graphic. There we go. This one is going to help. So this is a lot to look at, but as soon as it does come up on screen there for you, you can kind of go back and remember how in the opener, Gen G did a very like kind of previous meta star, you know, and they had the Ahri and everything, but they lost to the full like death ball team fighting scaling of FlyQuest. And so then they started to make some of these adjustments here, you know, and they were like, well, we're going to need some more side laning and some scaling with the Kassadin. That one, they barely squeaked out though, and it was actually a lot of help from FlyQuest giving money early to the Kassadin. I don't believe the drawing is actually showing up there. But as they progress, you know, you can kind of see it on screen. They over-chased in that game versus the double AD carries of FlyQuest, gave them extra money, and then lost there as well. And after that one, they themselves incorporated again the double AD carries with the Triss plus Ashe and the very strong team fighting, having the Maokai for the front line there for them as well. So honestly, working through more stage games, and you heard it from Canyon in the interview afterwards too. He was like, we are going to cook up some more picks. We are going to take this as an opportunity to re-examine, you you know, the lane swaps as well as the drafts coming into now an opponent that they know ever so well in T1. I think that this is actually good for Gen G heading into this match.
It might be, and your drawing was wonderful.
What, did it actually show up, though?
I don't know, maybe on the stream, but not for our preview. Who knows? Who knows?
Schrodinger's drawing.
Yeah.
You know?
Indeed, and I think we can all agree that regardless of our prediction, right? If you follow kind of the normal order of things, the normal order of how Gen G has done this entire year, taking out the MSI finals perhaps, and the summer. Sorry, not the MSI finals. The summer finals. That they are the stronger team. They should be coming into Worlds. And I just want to remind people of last year when T1 went up against JDG, right? It was a similar story for T1, Dagda. They came into Worlds, people would not rate them that highly. And then this happens, right? In a moment where everything is up against it and Faker has to take it into his own hands.
Yeah, and I think that's the clutch factor that Faker can bring to the table, but it was also a lot of T1 breaking and redefining the meta to fit their style, and we're also starting to see a little bit of that with the T1 drafts as well, with Keria bringing out things like the Bards, the Nikos, the Pikes, and saying, look, this is our style and our game, and we're going to show up and play it. And I think when you add to that just how strong they can be, finding these plays, making these moments that stand the test of time in the history of League of Legends, that's where T1 thrive, and I'm very excited to see what they can do against Gen G with that.
Yeah, and it makes it super interesting given the state of both of these teams all year, right? Like Gen G has been able to get the better of T1 pretty routinely for the past 2 years. T1 was looking very shaky. It's kind of insane to remind ourselves they are a 4th seed, and I think here we hear from Chovy himself. He must defeat Faker to earn the right to be at the top. He knows this better than anyone, being in that exact same position and eventually having to surpass Faker en route to becoming the best performing mid laner in the world. And I think I'm so curious to see how this is going to turn out with what T1 have done at this tournament already and what Gen G have been able to do against T1 for the past 2 years.
Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like T1 are usually best looking when they have like hard pushing top for Zeus, very aggressive play, and pushing bottom at the same time. So they have like 2 points of attack, whereas Gen G, normally they're stacking up towards mid and late game, and you feel like unless T1 makes some flashy engages and like fight their way out of it, Gen G have that advantage the later the game does go.
There's so much to talk about. I feel like we won't get there, but there's a couple of touching points that I think are really important. You know, Oner is one that comes to mind, and I know you've prepared to draw my life, Emily.
I have. So let's get ready for Draw My LCK Life. Oner. Moon Oner Hyun-jun began his pro career with T1 in 2020. He has spent his entire career thus far with the T1 organization. When Oner was 12, he heard about how the Shy, it's always the Shy, hit Challenger at 15 years old, and it inspired him to keep grinding. It was also around this time in junior high that he realized he wanted to become a pro gamer. As part of a controversial 10-man roster experiment in 2021 LCK Spring, Oner actually faced a lot of doubt and strife in his first split, going as far as to say he didn't feel like he was necessarily ready to debut because he was rotating through junglers. He became the T1 starting jungler that summer, and in 2022 found his home with the now famed ZOFGK Zeus, Oner, Faker, Gumayusi, and Keria lineup. They made Worlds Finals that year, but narrowly lost to DRX. Once a lightning rod for criticism of his team, Oner has become a stable force for T1 and now aims for his 2nd Worlds trophy as a reigning world champion along with the rest of T1. I think the thing I'd want to stress is he's had, again, a lot of ups and downs in his career, both off and on the Rift. And this past summer, I actually thought when T1 were really struggling, he maintained a pretty consistent performance to kind of steady them at times that was really crucial and not something we'd yet seen from him as a player.
Talking about steadiness in the bot lane, I'm sorry. We got it. There's so much. You were steady by my side as well, but it is time for today's featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. It's Gumayusi versus Peyz.
T1's Gumayusi faces Gen G's Peyz in our featured matchup, presented by Mercedes-Benz. These legendary marksmen have faced each other many times over the years and have gone blow for blow, but lately it has been Peyz getting the upper hand, winning the LCK 3 times in a row in the last 2 years, and beating Gumayusi in the finals whenever they met, every single time.
Gen.G's so far ahead. Bwipo's gonna be your target here next as the shockwave doesn't do much. Peyz getting the kill on Bwipo. Gen.G just cutting them down like flies. Another triple for Peyz.
Though we cannot deny the world's buff T1 seems to magically receive every year. As the lowest LCK seed team in the quarterfinals, they were the only one to sweep their opponents. And it was off the back of Gumayusi's deathless performance.
Now the turn back, the bullet time, an equalizer of their own. Ulti coming in, Jackie Love about to fall. Keria going over the wall, it's a little bit over eager. TES still standing, Jackie Love still standing, double lady carries. But Faker in the clutch, the arm guard, he goes golden, he buys a moment. TN perfect timing, but it does not matter because here comes Guma, baby. Double coming through, T1 takeover.
The unkillable Demon Prince now stands unfallen for 7 Worlds knockout games in a row. Will Peyz be able to take down the Crown Prince, or will T1 reign supreme at Worlds yet again?
And I do think Peyz has been absolutely standout performer for Gen.G over the course of themselves domestically. He's been able to pick up things like the Ziggs and be the best Ziggs in the LCK. He's been able to fit into multiple different styles, but no matter what they need from him, Peyz has been consistently able to stand up and be that guy for Gen.G.
Yeah, it's really important for people to understand that previously I think people saw Peyz as being carried by the rest of his team. This summer he really stepped into his own and earned his spot as one of the best AD carries in the world.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen a lot from the Gen.G roster in terms of that stability and being able to perform at a very, very high level. But I think the question on everyone's lips is, will it happen now when the pressure is the absolute highest? We know what has followed Chovy for a lot of his career, which we thought was erased, you know, coming into this World Championship. But is it, Chovy?
I think that it will be for Gen.G this time around. I mean, we showcased, you know, Mata and the coaching there. Also think for him, it is really nice to have a bot lane partner like Lehends. You know, they showed the comms clip after the Twitch pick, and Lehends was like, I told you, you should pick Twitch. And he's like really always like giving him confidence, and they're definitely a team that can also pull out some of these other strange picks. I would say definitely Canyon too, as far as some of the draft things they can get up to.
I think though when you're talking about pressure, that was kind of Peyz and Lehends who, for me, disappointed me. So I want to see more from them coming into this series because against FlyQuest, it was kind of like, hey, we're going back towards the Ziggs to give you comfort. Because when you look at the opposite side for T1, Gumayusi has been incredible. Rain Hailer, Snow, this guy is stepping up for them. It doesn't even matter that we're getting Keria like roaming away from him. Gumayushi's playing the laning phase incredibly intelligently, making sure he's picking up all that CS. And then when it gets to the team fights, he's coming in with low resources, divvying out a ton of goal or damage, and as well has the most impeccable team fighting I've ever seen.
And it can keep going, the graphic, because there's just so much for Gumayusi, who maybe has flown under the radar. And as it rolls out, Kobe.
I still think that active like streak connecting last year to this year TES is for fun, you know, kind of stat.
You know, it's storytelling.
It is fun.
We're having fun with it.
As we get closer, let's take a look at everyone's predictions, as they love doing it in the LCK. You got a little spoiler behind us as well.
Pretty even.
Actually,
or T1 favored, actually.
Do you want to qualify your prediction, guys? Kobe?
I mean, I'm sticking with Gen.G. I think that they will be able to overcome any sort of nerves or bumpy road that they got into with FlyQuest. I think the time that they'll invest after that series, they'll be able to smooth it out here.
Yeah, I also think T1 is an opponent that they're intimately familiar with, so I think they'll have some specific game plans prepared for T1 specifically. I think it's going to be really, really, really close. But this time, unlike my other predictions, I'm siding towards domestic rather than international.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Gen.G's early macro was not as strong against FlyQuest. I think T1 are the red side kings at Worlds right now because they get that counterpick for Keria. And against top esports, their early game was absolutely impeccable. And I think having that control in the early stages is going to set them up so well. Plus, they've got that man on the screen behind them. I mean, if you've got Reckless in Europe, I mean, that's a buff off the bat, right?
That's a great point. Yeah, it's awesome to see. You can hear it behind us that things are absolutely heating up, and we got to sleep an hour extra if you were in Paris last night. And the symbolism, it was not lost on me. Was it a sign of the times changing quite literally, or the seasons ending and getting into a new one? And what is more apt as a backdrop for the match of today, whether it is Chovy, if he can usher in that new era? But he has to go through Faker, who has weathered every single storm. Who will make it to the grand finals in London?
Michel-Ange a dit « J'ai vu un ange dans le marbre et j'ai seulement ciselé jusqu'à l'en libérer. » Et tout comme il le dit, nous sommes nombreux aujourd'hui à travailler sur le marbre. Sacrifier tout sur son chemin pour réaliser son rêve. Le voyage n'est pas pour les cœurs fragiles. En 2019, Chovy affronte Faker en BO5 pour la toute première fois.
페이커 선수에 대한 첫인상은 일단 기본기도 되게 좋았는데 계속 끊임없이 심리전을 거는 게 인상적이었어요.
Mais ne parvient pas à le vaincre.
계속 뭐가 문제였을까 생각하게 되더라고요. 내가 못해서 졌다기보단 상대가 잘한 게 많았고 그래서 이기려면 그 잘하는 상대보다 더 잘해야 한다고 생각을 했던 것 같아요.
페이커 선수를 이겨야만 최고가 될 자격이 주어진다고 생각을 합니다.
초비 선수가 굉장히 뛰어난 선수이기 때문에 같이 맞붙는 게 굉장히 저에게 있어서 재밌고 스스로도 많이 배우고 성장할 수 있는 것 같습니다.
En 2022, Chovy a enfin pris le dessus.
제가 처음 우승했을 때가 2년 전이었는데요. 했던 말이 말도 안 돼라고 하고 우승을 했던 걸로 기억하는데 그만큼 마음의 짐이 많이 덜어진 것 같아요.
Genji continua de gagner à domicile. Ils étaient imparables.
처음 우승했을 때 그때 당시 목표가 리그 우승을 해보는 거였는데 데뷔 첫 시즌 만에 이룰 수 있게 돼서 너무 좋았던 것 같아요.
2022, 2023 et 2024. Genji a battu T1 encore et encore quand cela comptait le plus.
이제 첫 우승을 이제 T1 상대로 우승을 해가지고 감정이 북받쳤던 것 같습니다.
결승에서 많이 진 후에는 저희가 많이 부족한가라는 생각도 들게 되었던 것 같고 실망도 많이 했었던 것 같습니다.
여기는 LCK가 아니고 월즈이고 월즈는 T1에게 적합한 무대라고 생각합니다.
챔피언으로 참가했고 챔피언으로 떠날 계획입니다.
À ce jour, 53 victoires pour Faker. 52 victoires pour Chovy. Mais malgré toutes ces victoires, un sentiment d'inachevé persiste au fond de son cœur. Le rêve d'être champion du monde. Imposant et le fardeau. Pour l'un, le fardeau de rester le sommet. Pour l'autre, le fardeau d'atteindre le sommet.
Genji was pushed to the limit. They were pushed to the edge, but they were built for these situations. They were built for victory. They were built to win, and they will do just that.
페이커 선수 새로운 미래를 열겠습니다.
초비 선수 미래를 원한다면 증명하세요.
무거운 왕관의 목에 함께 짊어지겠습니다.
저희가 새로운 세대입니다.
T1은 과거, 현재, 그리고 미래입니다.
Bonjour Paris! Bienvenue à l'Adidas Arena pour la dernière demi-finale de 2024 des mondiaux de League of Legends! Aujourd'hui, au bout du chemin, une place à Londres, aux côtés de Bilibili, à se présenter devant vous, les deux derniers représentants de la Corée. D'un côté, champion du MSI, en quête du titre ultime, et de l'autre, 4 fois champion du monde, défendant leur couronne. Alors, mesdames et messieurs, pour vos deux équipes, Genji et T1! En face de lui, Zeus! Dans la jungle, Keria!
semi-finals. I'm Atlas. As usual, I'm joined by Chronicler, but we're also getting to welcome our friend Andrew Vedius Day to the LCK, which is absolutely fantastic. Oh, sorry, we're still at Worlds, aren't we? We're still at Worlds.
Yeah.
We've, of course, got a little bit of experience with this particular matchup, but there are a lot of very critical changes moving into this best of 5.
I mean,
it's Worlds.
It's Worlds.
that really summarizes it.
That's like 98% of the changes, yeah.
I was like, wait, there were changes you didn't tell me about?
Yeah, throwing us out there, Atlas.
Yeah. It was such an emotional teaser, right?
Oh,
I
God,
mean, we were
yeah.
all getting choked up watching the... I mean, there's so much on the line. Under the banner of Gen G, this is a barrier that this organization hasn't been able to cross, and now they face across T1, the reigning world champions. I mean, what an accomplishment it would be to beat them on what feels like T1's home ground here at Worlds.
And I feel like this weird combination of relieved today, but also nervous, because no matter what happens in this matchup, we're going to have an incredible finals.
Oh,
I think the stories are just writing themselves for either team here. The main thing is, can we get a banger best of 5? And I think most signs are pointing to yes. And we're going to jump into the draft here to start this one off. And already, things are going pretty similarly to what we were expecting, except for maybe the Nidalee first ban to come through here from T1 to deny that from Canyon.
No surprises, T1 taking away the lessons here. And the real question is, what happens to Yone? T1 is, I think, expecting Gen G to ban it here. The smaller was their #1 answer that we saw them pull out. And generally, outside of that, under no circumstances have teams be allowed to get that Yone.
And the Ashe is the other thing that's such an incredibly high priority. With that Kalista ban, it is important, but I think a trade of Yone and Ashe is going to be how we start this best of 5. And Zeus is going to say, well, I might play it, but it's probably nobody in the mid lane.
That's the beauty of this pick for T1. It is a flex between top and mid. We'll see what T1 do with it later on as the Skarner looking to be the priority for Canyon. We'll see if they look to pair that alongside the Ashe, which you already mentioned, Atlas. The Rumble is something else to take into consideration. Yone plus Rumble is such a terrifying combo, and there are so many junglers that can help facilitate it as well. Sejuani is one that potentially comes to mind to really enable that mid lane matchup as the Skarner locked in for Canyon.
And Canyon, obviously, we'd all love to see him on carries, but Skarner, definitely the strongest jungler currently on the patch, with the exception of that Nidalee that was banned away early on. Now, Gen G knew 100% that this Yone was going to get picked up. We've seen teams do this, particularly in best of 5 in the first game, give it up. What is their answer going to be? I was actually expecting the Ashe to get picked up here early on because it has been such an insane prio pick. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, so T1 getting Yone and Ashe right here on blue
Ashe
side.
Renata. I'm actually very surprised because T1 had Sejuani Rumble just straight up and available for them. That top side has been so incredibly strong and it fits their playstyle so incredibly well. But what this does is it hides where that Yone is going. It opens up the board and gives this bottom lane a whole lot of power.
Is it the Blitzcrank to come out here? So. Because if they don't pick it here, I do think it's going to get taken away. Is Chovy going to get his hands on the Sylas here?
They're going for a bruiser topside on the side of Gen G, looking to get down and dirty and look to try and scrap against T1. We saw a similar composition from T1 against Top Esports in their first game, where they were able to find great success, the key difference being a Renekton coming through from the side of Kiin. Now we turn our attention to that jungle role. Gen G, what are they going to ban away? The Sejuani, we already talked extensively about it as an option. That's going to be the first one removed. Do they want to consider AP threats? The Blitzcrank also discussing that. Lehends, very well known for his Blitzcrank. They're not going to allow him to have that one. Now you kind of move into uncharted territory. Do you also consider Rakan something worth taking away?
Yeah, I think Rakan's a really important one. Do they just ban the Rumble because it's still very, very strong, opens the doors for a lot more AD heavy compositions as well? Certainly a lot of things on Gen G's mind is what they could be taking away here.
The benefit here for Gen G is that they will know where this Yone is going before they lock in their final pick. So we'll see, gives them a little bit more leeway. I imagine Peyz is going to be picking up an AD carry here on R4. As the Rumble does get taken away, Gen G also still saying we don't know where this Yone is going. We haven't seen it for Zeus in the top lane in a while, but given his history, wouldn't be no surprise. The Ezreal going to get taken away. Extremely self-sufficient pick. That is very hard to punish, and I think the range, so you don't have to interact too much with the Ashe lane, quite big as well. What is Peyz going to lock in here to go with this bruiser style? because it's really hard to find something that can play into the Ashe Renata, and might be a lane swap on the cards.
Well, I was going to say my instincts are something along the lines of Kai'Sa, but Peyz no stranger to the Ziggs. It looks like that's going to be the direction, the safe wave clear. And I mean, you look at this top side from Gen G, wave clear is definitely something that they're lacking, but I feel like Ziggs can be very self-sufficient, especially if Lehends wants to play and engage support. And I think that it complements the composition nicely. T1 now considering what they're going to put in the jungle.
A lot of different considerations.
A lot of potential options being flicked through by Gumayusi, teasing the crowd a little bit, but it is Oner. We're at Worlds, and his Vi is going to be the option.
Gonna have to be that. Oh, the Gragas lock-in as well. Also kind of keeps things up in the air as far as where these two champions are going. Of course, Zeus is an incredible Gragas player just in general, so it's not likely to go to Faker, but he's played it a few times.
Yeah, there was that random 3 weeks where everyone in the LCK was pranked into thinking Gragas mid was good.
Because Faker was just winning on it,
It wasn't. It was all a psych out. This used to be a really good matchup for specifically tank Gragas. With Grasp, back when his sustain was a lot better, you could just completely stonewall the Renekton. He never really was able to get shoved. I do imagine, though, looking at the damage profile for T1, this is going to be the full AP variety, so maybe a little bit more carry or shutdown potential early on here for Gen G, but they are really heavy on the AP, and that's something that I do think we have seen be a problem for them before.
I mean, that's certainly true. The advantage is that Yone is a champion that very rarely builds things like the Merc Treads. He's very locked in his typical itemization build, along with the Gragas as well, who you kind of expect to go more towards that AP direction. I feel like that they should be fine. I think the biggest thing for Gen G is being able to play through that first item spike. When you have this strong, skirmish-heavy top side in Renekton, Skarner, Sylas, you're going to be looking to fight around Herald, fight for those early dragons. You want to draw T1 into those early skirmishes before they have that opportunity to scale. And I think that it's going to be crucial for Gen G to kind of force T1 into their game.
Now that we also know for a fact that this Yone is going to Faker. Faker, not one of our top tier Yones, but Zeka, BDD, Chovy, all right ahead of him. So this is a big test for him as well. Being able to perform on this pick would really throw a wrench into, I think, the drafting plans for Gen G, who take a big gamble here with this Game 1 draft.
And Faker has found success and had some iffy moments on that Yone just in general. We saw Xiaohu not really pass that test yesterday. We'll see whether Faker, our other veteran mid laner, as far as our semifinals matchups are concerned, is going to be able to handle it. I don't think the GOAT's going to struggle too much. I think it's about how both of these drafts are going to function when we actually get into some of these brawls. But ladies and gentlemen, it is almost the moment that you've been waiting for. Game number 1 in our second semi-final of Worlds 2024 to decide who is going to be meeting BLG in the final. Oh man, already just a little bit of a defensive start. Not going to have those insane level 1s like we did in Game 2 yesterday.
The atmosphere is absolutely electric, and I think back to that spring final, the epic 5-game series that we had.
Where did those 5 games come? I'm still actually confused about where they came from. It shouldn't have happened that way.
I don't think we ever figured it out.
It's a shame that we were robbed in summer of them meeting in the playoffs, and I'm hopeful, well, we've got them here at Worlds. We get to see this opportunity.
Better late than never, eh, Betty?
T1 now setting up for an invade, looking to potentially set up for a swap.
All right, so I was saying that there might not be a swap, but there is. It is immediately spotted. Canyon's just going to move over to his blue side quadrant, so should be okay. Kiin also going to be rotating immediately, getting the idea that there is going to be a potential lane swap in the air. Does make a fair bit of sense, but leaving a Ziggs in a bottom lane by himself is a recipe for plates.
Well, that's the big thing. Ziggs is a champion that even in top lane, because of his passive, you actually do a decent amount even for all the resistances. And if you are in a bot lane, it's going to be even more pronounced. T1, though, looking at the setups here, Zeus actually did go for Grasp, same for the mid laners, but shouldn't come as a surprise there. There's been a lot of Grasp mids throughout the tournament, even seeing it on ranged champions like Smolters, and it looks like Gen G is going to go for the variety where you do have Lehends just laning together with Chovy or Canyon, starting on the bot side, and looks like just the usual jungle split. Neither jungler able to steal away a camp.
Yep, just some vertical jungling to start things off here as Kiin's just doing his best to zone Zeus away from minions. Of course, Gragas in a lane swap is pretty good at it. Teleport from Kiin to get him towards that top side of the map. 3 versus 1 could be a little bit dangerous. Having hit level 2, I think he should be all right.
It's actually really nice timing. As he arrives, the minion dies, and he immediately dinks too. So he got enough experience in bot to not be at quite a high risk of a dive But even with that early attention being paid towards the mid lane, we do see Faker still doing fine. Bot side might be a dive setup here. Zeus is still fairly full health.
All right, let's see whether they can actually make this one work. You can see the barrel has been charged. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage at this point. Level 2 for Zeus does have that body slam. Going to use it immediately onto Canyon. Already down to 50% as Lehends is trying to tank that turret for as long as possible. One more's going to do it, but Peyz almost just straight up dead. And Canyon, 2 turret shots, has the flash. And Zeus says, not today, boys. Lehends looking for another option. He flashes the Zenith Blade. Lehends able to walk out of that one, but he's still going to have to flash as Faker comes down to make sure his top laner stays alive.
A colossal blunder on the execution of the dive. Lehends can't connect the E. The tower aggro is mismanaged, and Gen.G are forced to retreat on their first play of the series.
And Gen.G, I think, should count themselves lucky. That could have gone way worse.
Oh, yeah.
The Canyon unintendedly getting the aggro there was the big thing. I think it might have been red buff. He clearly wasn't expecting it. They were looking for the redive. And that moment, bot time for Faker to TP towards the bottom lane. Only good thing for Gen.G is that did give Chovy a little bit of time while he still has a teleport available. But T1 going to be feeling great about that, trading just that flash on Zeus and a TP for multiple summoners from Gen.G.
There were so many instances there where it was very awkward for Zeus because he was one minion off leveling up, but the cannon minion had aggro. Hang on a minute, a play.
Yeah, Lehends Hex flashing in. Not going to find that Zenith Blade either. Good handshake from Keria, and Kiin taking so much damage. Lehends got to hit those if Gen.G is going to find some tempo back in this game.
Wow, Gumayusi's Ashe so prevalent, it even causes the screen to freeze.
Yeah.
Lehends 3 for 3 on misses when it comes to the Zenith Blade now. He needs to be able to connect those if he wants to set up plays for his team, but I question a couple nerves feels like coming through here from the side of Gen.G early on.
Lehends, known as a joker, but has had some moments. Him and Peyz, I think, have throughout the course of this roster often been the most criticized. Has had incredible performances. Think back to that first series against Home Life in summer playoffs, but then also often cited as the reason why they struggled so much in the actual finals. I do want to note the fact that Gen.G has triple teleport, bailed them out a little bit because they were able to still catch that top wave. Even with Kiin being bullied out of that lane, Chovy could TP top, and Kiin has now made his way to the mid lane.
Oh, that's very cute. Canyon being able to dodge the Hawk shot there as Chovy rotating back down, spotted on this control ward as Keria taking some chain lash damage. Chovy should be able to get out of here just fine, no worries. Should be able to dodge some moves, and Faker with his Unbound Soul just going to be able to try and push this wave in. Of course, the luxury of being able to teleport to the top lane is purely because Faker had to use his to get down towards the bottom side, but good handshake going to come in here. Could this be first blood against Chovy? That would be such devastating news for Gen.G. T1 already with a lot of control, 600 gold in the lead, and Faker is really having a good time in this lane despite having to vacate early.
I mean, this matchup is quite favored for the Yone early on just because of how restrained Sylas is as a champion around cooldowns. He just doesn't have them in the early game to effectively trade against a champion like Yone who could just keep spamming that Q. The CS advantage, you rightly said, though, coming from the fact that early TP came through. And Chovy, he's going to be forced back to base very soon. He doesn't want to miss this wave. They're level 6. Faker threatening the potential ult there to try and zone Chovy away from that farm, but he will be able to get the can.
Yeah, level 6 gained as well.
Yeah, and with Kiin being pulled around the map, we see that he's actually, even with the fact that he was able to catch that middle wave, he has had to really pay. Whereas Zeus, because he absorbed that early dive, has just been able to catch multiple waves, and I think T1 as a team always look their best when they get to play this aggressive, when the lanes are pushing and they are the ones dictating. As we see the Grubs now being started up as well, would be a really big boom, particularly for Faker that wants to use that pressure in the side lane. Going to be a Drake for Grubs trade. I do think an early Drake for Gen.G is great because obviously looking at the composition, the Renekton is going to lose a lot of value as the game goes on, but Sylas and Ziggs most certainly will not.
Yep. And, ooh, Cask, very close to being able to steal that one away. I do like an opportunistic barrel being thrown in as now potential dive towards the top side of the map. Lehends with that Eclipse is trying to tank things up. Doesn't really do a whole lot of work. That is another miss on the Zenith Blade, but also, like you say, the minions are all going to die, so they should be okay at least for another crash.
Keeping my eyes on a potential cross map as both mid laners made their way up towards top. Nice follow there from Chovy. Losing a little bit in terms of experience, but ready for the potential play happening on the top side of the map. Reset now come through for Faker, securing his first 2 items of the game, and we're in a very timid early game. Crucially, though, we talked about those first item spikes for Gen.G. their biggest strength in the early game is the fact that they have Sylas, Skarner, Renekton on the top side that I think want to try and leverage this skirmishing power in the early game to try and force these objectives. And as you rightly said, Dragons are going to be a great way to try and force that. Get yourself the second, and then you'll be ready to force a fight around the third, maybe even look to contest the next grubs.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of want to draw out a little bit and have a conversation about what these compositions are trying to do, as another Hawkshot is going to spot Canyon here this time around. Because I'm looking at Gen G and I'm thinking, there is a lot of magic damage here, but also it's solo AD Renekton. So if you're not building armor, then maybe the Crocodile just eats you. Which could become a problem if Kiin gets accelerated. And I think that is what's so incredibly important about what you say, playing through that top side, getting those skirmishes. Because right now, I mean, we haven't had a first blood just yet. And I think that Gen G probably hoping that some of that starts a little bit sooner rather than later in their favor.
Gen G have often taken this role in games against T1. It's also something that's important to note. And it's not until we really start to see turrets falling or more impactful objectives go over, right? We talk about Soul Point, we're talking about 6 grubs, possible Herald. And the 6 grubs, I think, is attainable for T1. But that alone is not going to be enough. There's a possible trap being set up here. Oner has that ultimate available. But instead, even if you don't actually get anything out of the play, like you're crashing this wave, you're getting the plates, and you're still putting Gen G further behind.
The key difference I think we're seeing in terms of impact in this early game is Keria. Keria is really making his presence felt in the mid lane, and remember, Chovy had a CS advantage because of Faker's TP towards the bot side of the map. So Keria has spent like at least 2 to maybe even 3 minutes of this game just hovering around mid, making it awkward for Chovy to base at the right time, keeping him to stay for that extra minion wave, helping Faker chip away at his HP. And you look at that CS, look at that gold slowly shifting back in Faker's way. You can see 3 plates secured in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Lehends has just been shadowing his AD carry, shadowing Peyz, just making sure that, yes, he can get that experience, but he's even behind Keria when it comes to XP. So with the grub spawning in a minute's time, desperately he needs to get that level 6 to have that ultimate available. And I wonder if Gen G's actually eager to try and force a fight as the grub's now spawning soon.
And it's the opportunity cost for the 2 plays that they tried to go for. The dive was a failure, and then the topside play we tried to set up for Kiin, trying to punish this pushing power of the Ashe and Renata, also not really working out. And that not only set Lehends behind, but also started Kiin being in a bit of a tough position when it comes to catching these waves. And I do agree, I think Gen G, if they are denied a good fight, things are going to be very tough. Gen G has, again, I think been in this position before, but I do really want to highlight, we say that often, but if you look at their gold stats in the LCK, they weren't getting a lot of kills, but the amount of gold they generated early was actually insane. Like, they were sitting on, I think it was on average like a 1.5k gold lead, and obviously there was a meta that was textbook perfection for them, but it isn't like they were getting into fights without anything to grasp onto. And this game feels like that might be the case as the grubs are going to get started up. You see Gen G is looking to contest. Level 6 has been hit on Lehends. Yeah. Is that enough? 4 grubs are definitely going to go to wave T1 here.
Yeah, it's at least 4, but I think it's almost guaranteed to be 6. So 5 are going to be going down here at least. Here for T1, no vision up and available at all as Peyz can throw a Mega Inferno Bomb if he would like to, but looks like T1 are just going to cut their losses. 5 grubs is pretty good. Canyon going to be able to grab this 6th, potentially. Oner a little bit far away as now could just be a team fight in. Peyz doesn't actually get over the wall with that satchel. Could be an important start to this fight as Chovy's teleported in. That's going to be the grub going down, but can they win the fight? Impale comes in, kept into the sweep spot, but the barrel is so good. Still, it's going to be Chovy picking up first blood against Oner, and T1 just not enough damage.
T1, they could have just taken the 5 grubs and left it at that, especially with the teleport coming in from Chovy, but instead they look for the 5v5 and Gen G punch back.
Yeah, I'm surprised that T1 chose to take that, because the thing we've been talking about, right? Renekton in this early game is just, he's just so strong. Ultimate alone is enough to be so durable, a lot of damage. And you can see how the engage was a little disconnected here from T1. It's going to be Oner diving onto the back line, attempting to steal the grub. Chovy on the side, and look at Peyz's positioning. Perfectly safe, nice angle. The Ashe arrow gets stolen. Gumayusi really can't do much. While the barrel looks good, the front line dissipates, and T1 is immediately forced to disengage.
Yeah, it was a dominist Renekton, and he was kind of okay with just slicing and dicing his way around. So even though it looked amazing, didn't quite work out there. So T1, they lose first blood, but they still have a lot of tempo around this map. Unless Chovy has something to say about it, after he does crash this wave towards the top side. 5 grubs, certainly going to be valuable as the game goes on though, and T1 are looking to also even out the dragon count.
And the kill going to Chovy is a big deal. This Sylas, we've seen how hard this champion can snowball when he does get a lead. He's able to very consistently force plays with his catch potential. And it's also something that the Chovy that we saw domestically, I think we've only seen in one game this Worlds, and it was that Game 5 Smolder game. Because his laning stats haven't really been comparable to what we have seen domestically as a trade for turrets.
Well, it's going to be 5 grubs, so T1 do have a fair bit, but Gen.G, I think they're going to be able to cut this one down. Gumayusi also in trouble there as a solar flare does get cleansed. Gumayusi going to be able to make his way out. I believe that was Gen.G taking it first.
That was, yeah.
And so despite the grubs, they're still able to get there with the slight lead they had as far as the turret health. So a bit of extra gold going over to Gen.G, and that's going to very close to even things out here between the two squads.
I mean, we couldn't really ask for more, could we? Dead even game, 13 minutes
Maybe a few more kills, still just as even?
They're coming. Remember, it's game 1 of a best of 5. You don't. We have the entree. You know, we're just starting off.
I'm sorry, just a little bit of patience.
I know. Not a patient man.
I know.
I just want to
I agree with you,
the
Ben.
main course is on its way. I think what was smart there from Gen.G is, I mean, they had to reset after the grubs. The problem is the dragon was spawning relatively soon, so T1 already back out onto the map in a position to secure that. Gen.G leveraged the fact that they had that time advantage to secure that first tower. So ultimately an even trade. The only problem for Gen.G is T1 can kind of sack the next dragon if they want to without much of a problem, and they can continue to scale up. Blade of the Ruin King is very close to being completed for Faker, and that is such a massive item spike for T1 that they're definitely going to be waiting to try and secure.
Now Zeus pushing another wave towards this top lane and does have quite a few friends around. Looks like Gen.G did have a bit of information as to who was coming. So Canyon going to be rotating up. Peyz also there, Mega Inferno Bomb in hand. The siege could be a little bit dangerous. Good handshake for the disengage as Canyon looking for an opportunity. Might be able to get in there, throwing some rocks around as you can see. Not going to go for any stuns or anything like that just yet. T1 are just going to be allowed to back away.
Crucially, look at Faker going back to base. He should have enough money for Blade of the Ruin King. This means that T1 are saying, we don't want to fight yet. It's not worth it. They're not going to overstay their welcome. The TP
Kraken as well.
The question is this TP going to be up in time to contest? The pings are coming down from T1. They have the Ashe arrow available to try and stall. T1 are saying they do want to fight this.
Looks like they're going for a great vision here with this ward, as you can see. So Oner completely on vision right now as Chovy with the Fate sealed, now stolen away or hijacked here as that's a solar flare. It's going to connect. Great Impale as well, and I think Keria was there for a second, but now he is just gone. So the Herald goes to Gen.G. They'll take a kill as well, and now Chovy looking for more as Faker just going to pop back to his soul. Zeus just going to body slam his way out, and Gen.G, they really are taking these skirmishes.
Gen.G's target selection in these skirmishes has been so clean every single time. One member is getting blown up in a barrage of CC as Lehends is driving. Always scary, but this time it works out for the mid lane turret. Gonna get taken low. T1 is able to defend.
Yeah, ever since Lehends got his license earlier in this tournament, he has definitely been driving a whole lot better than he was throughout the rest of this year.
We've seen some things.
Fan, you know, exactly. Very proud of him, though.
What we saw there as well for Gen.G, and it's, again, I think T1, this one a little bit more understandable, but when Gen.G have the setup, this comp is so hard to engage on. There's so much disengage, and the Skarner in particular, I think, has really been a big problem for many teams this Worlds. And even with Peyz, I think his flash was forced in one of the earlier plays we saw. Didn't actually happen on screen. I think maybe when they were looking for the catch on Guma, but he was positioning so safely. There was no way to get on top of the Ziggs.
Well, now it's just Canyon and Chovy up here towards the top side of the map. 4 members of T1 in the area looking to try and push down this turret. They really want to take their second to even out the map state as far as these structures, and a teleport to come in from Peyz just to make sure that they don't lose it.
See, Gen.G are playing with their advantage very strategically because T1, like, the problem with the Herald was the timing. TP wasn't quite up for Faker. He needed to get that base off, yet they still wanted to try and contest rather than go for a cross map because the bot tower had already fallen. So rather than play for something like mid, they got over ambitious and they weren't able to make it work. Then what they did was they kept the pressure up in mid. So Gen.G could secure that mid tower. They kept Peyz there. He had the TP available. He then goes back to base and then TP's top. So while this Renekton is free hitting onto the bot tower, uncontested to secure that tower. They had the Ziggs TP top to then catch the wave and prevent the siege. So T1 is just losing on the map, while Gen G is continuing to gain advantages.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have trouble liking Ziggs compositions. And I understand it's not exactly the most interactive when it comes to early game skirmishes and things like that, but what it does to a team that is very good at playing around tempo and macro that they are already good at is it's just basically a cheat code.
Well, it's as you were saying, Zaddy, because even if you do try to play for mid-turret, they're like, Peyz can just ult the wave.
Right, yeah.
And Gen G have had so many of these Ziggs compositions, and it plays really well into their style, which is always trying to outtrade you. And now, what was a 1.5k gold deficit 5 minutes ago, T1's going to get this topside turret, so they're going to equalize it a little bit, but is still 1.5k gold for Gen G and a second dragon on the way as well.
And look at the map setup as well. Like, Gen G conceding that top side to get full vision coverage around this bot side of the map, pushing Zeus deep towards his tier 2 tower, making this very difficult for T1 to contest.
There it is.
And the Ziggs ultimate to slow down the siege. It's
Chovy comes on over, he's going to be able to clear it out as well.
It's annoying. If you're T1,
it is annoying.
it's so annoying because
that's stupid Yordle.
You're trying to cross-map the best that you can, and it constantly gets interrupted.
Well, Canyon looking for an opportunity here, but Zeus just going to be able to take the red buff just fine. And so there is a win for T1, but they're going to have to do something to try and grab some control back in this game, because earlier on, T1 were in the laning phase able to get a lot of decent advantages. Yes, it wasn't translating into kills, but they were able to get some extra money. Of course, Gumayusi was very far ahead, still has, I guess, a couple of minions in the lead, but he was 20 CS up earlier on. That has been evened out. And yeah, this game state is all going to come down to, I think, just where team fights will finally erupt when these teams stop just trading objectives everywhere, as Arrow is looking to connect handshake straight into it here. And I don't think this Leona is going to last very long. That is going to be T1's first kill. They're holding onto it as best they can. Faker delivered that one. Gumayusi says, you can have it, mate. Let's allow you to scale into this mid game.
I think that's crucial as well, because Chovy has that slight advantage over Faker in terms of itemization. So funneling a bit of gold over towards Faker makes him stronger in the side lane, gets him closer to that stride breaker completion. Baron spawning him at 45. I don't think that's going to be a major point of contention this early on, but it adds that extra sense of pressure. We know Tier 1's Barons are famous for both positive and negative reasons.
There's been a fluctuation throughout the years, yeah.
But I think at this World Championship, their Barons have been very good overall. And I think it's something that Gen G will have to keep track of, especially after their experience against FlyQuest.
Well, Canyon, he's dashing on over. Faker, able to dash back whenever he would like to, but straight into the Impale! Another Solar Flare's going to lock down Faker, and he is likely to die. The bailout not going to work, and Chovy, yeah, he stopwatches, but now he's looking for even more! Zeus not going to get stunned up here, as Kiin didn't have that off cooldown just yet, and Chovy is still smelling blood in the air. Keria able to walk his way out, but it's another skirmish win for Gen G.
What is Gen G going to do with this? Faker does have TP available. It is very early, and I do agree. I don't think they can actually do this. Their damage to Baron, not nearly to what T1 would have, but it's a win when it comes to the immediate play. That's still TP invested, though, and much like the kill on Lehends, it's nice, but if they get like 2 more kills, you can probably look towards more. Instead, it's going to be TP for a kill. Gold going over to Canyon, who finally, I was going to mention, gets his first Heartsteel stacks.
There you
20 minutes into the game.
I love to see it.
I will say that I feel that Gen G started off this game nervous. I felt like that there were some, like, the sense of pressure, the atmosphere, the arena. While it is excited for the matchup in and of itself, there's definitely more T1 fans here than Gen G. And we saw some of that in the execution. But now the game's slowed down a little bit. They were able to kind of play out the map. You can see the difference in confidence level, and the TP execution was the typical Gen G that we're used to seeing. Really nice collapse from them. They did lose the mid tower, but ultimately Gen G playing with a lot of control and confidence on the map. Their side lane setups are nice, their vision control is good, and now again, around the Baron, they're suffocating it. The good news for T1 is that, as you already said, Chronicler, they don't have a fast Baron. So T1, even if this Baron does start, we'll have plenty of time to react, even if there's not that much vision, thanks to Ashe as well.
I think it's actually so interesting talking about lopsided crowds in this matchup especially, because Gen G are exceptionally used to it. And not just Gen G. You look at all of these players just in general. Kiin, has he ever had a matchup where he's favored over the last 7 years?
That's fair.
I don't quite remember when. He won his first LCK title only very, very recently. Chovy going to be fighting against Faker here, but I don't think there's going to be any big result, although good trade there for Faker. Chovy and Lehends got smashed by T1 in their very first final that they made it to. So they're used to it over quite a few years. And Canyon was the first one to figure out how to actually do it, you know, and then became a world champion. So getting over that hurdle has been very important for all of these players.
Yeah, T1 always has the home crowd advantage. It feels like one of the things that they are going to really struggle with, though, particularly with Zeus, I think kind of going, you know, partially AP, partially tank, but even he is not going to be that beefy. If you lose control of the map with this composition, you do have the ability to contest for vision just because you have the Ashe, but face checking is actually really hard, and many of the plays that we've seen thus far have just been Gen G finding whoever is closest and blowing them up with the CC, as this rivalry goes a while back.
It certainly does.
It's the dawn of League of Legends, as we know it.
Because you got to remember that Gen G, even acquiring all of the accomplishments of the former Samsung roster, right? Like, this goes way, 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 way back.
Yeah, and
back
there
when
were multiple
sister teams.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. There were multiple SKTs in the league, multiple Samsung Galaxies in the league as well. Although not necessarily Samsung Galaxy, because it was white back then as well.
Atlas.
But I think we
what
understand the reference. I just wanted to make sure I understood the semantics in case someone gets mad at me.
And ultimately what we're building up to, and the reason why we're focusing on all these things, is because that main course dish is arriving soon. The fourth dragon of the game is going to be starting off. I ordered a banger team fight.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm waiting for it to be delivered.
What about a T1
the
Baron
T1
instead?
Baron, like, so smart. They see that the dragon is being started off. The Ziggs ultimate is always there. They know this has started. Let's see how Gen G handle this cross-map pressure.
Yep, it's Chovy that's going to make his way over there first, spotted by a T1 ward, as we can see. And there's the Mega Inferno Bomb just to guarantee that they know exactly what's going on. Teleport comes in, and yeah, there is no smite anywhere near this pit. Chovy, can you actually stop something from happening here? Is it going to be Oner the longest one down? Ulti from Faker finds two. He's out of there immediately. Kiin's able to try and chop them up. And there goes Oner, but they'll trade that any day of the week. They have the Baron buff as Keria able to get the handshake beautifully. His position amazing. As Lehends is in so much trouble, Zeus going to pick it up with a body slam, and Peyz is slowed down as well. They're being separated and destroyed as T1 just dance on Gen G.
The main course has delivered as T1 smartly start off the Baron as Gen G tried to start the Dragon. They forced Gen G into this very difficult situation that they just couldn't answer.
As we look here, Chovy, I imagine his job is to stall for the rest of his team to arrive, but he steps too far forward. He stays alive for a lot longer than we were expecting, but it doesn't matter. That's such a big source of damage gone. And then you see, with Zeus threatening the backline, Gen G doesn't actually have any damage. Like, Kiin is trying, Kenyon's trying, but it's a Skarner and a Renekton that's getting kited away.
The resources are divided on two fronts with Zeus, putting that pressure on the mid lane. Meanwhile, Ashe is such an annoying champion for Renekton to deal with. We talked about the scaling elements, and you're starting to see them come to fruition. The first major lead of the game, while it's not represented in the gold, goes to T1.
The soul point did go to Gen G, and that's something that they are going to try and hold on to. What can T1 get with this Baron? Bot side push is going to come through, but do remember, as long as Peyz is in the lane, the wave clear is still going to be very annoying to deal with.
Yeah, especially when there's side lanes that are sort of pushing naturally towards Gen G. You can tidy those up pretty comfortably. Right now, Gen G doing a decent job being able to remove these minions. 5 Grubs and Baron, though. It's going to be very, very difficult to stop T1 from taking these tier 2 turrets. Is going to be their option. Is now Chovy up here towards the top side of the map, fighting off against Faker, who's happy to go underneath this turret. It's so much damage. Well, so coming on through, and so Chovy is going to be okay, but this does not bode well. Party cast? No, it wasn't.
This is why I was a little surprised by the Sylas pick, because you kind of don't beat Yone in lane, and then you don't really beat him in a side lane either. There's this sweet spot in the mid game where you can maybe get advantages just because your skirmishing power is stronger, but right now Chovy's struggling to match that of Faker in the side, and T1 putting pressure everywhere. Tier 2 towers secured in top lane. They've transitioned over to mid. Now they have another wave in bot. Gen G's been dragged over towards the mid lane. That tower's going to fall. Gen G in game 1, slowly losing more and more control over the game.
3K gold lead now for T1, even though the first minute or so, the Baron, they weren't able to find anything. It's the setup afterwards. This team has perfected these Baron plays. Canyon!
Arrow going to connect. Canyon delivered. He finds an Impale, but he has no friends. The inner turret goes down. Hostile takeover to deliver Lehends as Kiin with the dominance just trying to distract him. In goes Lehends, trying to take them away from his inhibitor turret. But he's going to be separated from his body. And that's going to be a kill going over to Gumayusi. Only needed to invest a cleanse, and there are only inhibitor turrets left for Gen G.
And T1 watch Gen G walk into their depths again and again and say thank you very much. The inhibitors stand, but the gold lead keeps growing.
And Faker just toying with them here on this bottom side of the map. Man, it really just feels like a big swing back. So much it was give and take in this game, but now T1 are just saying that they're going to have it all.
The pick potential of this roster was something we didn't get to talk a lot about, but you can see it clear as day. The Ashe arrow into the Gragas ultimate makes it so difficult to protect the target that gets locked down. Lehends doing what he can to try and catch Gumayusi out, but it's just not enough. And the game is quickly snowballing in favor of T1.
Yeah, Lehends not feeling too happy about it. You can see the GOAT as well, not celebrating yet. This is game one. 5,000 gold is the approaching gold lead for T1. They have so much map control. They should be able to deny the rest of the Dragons. They can get their ducks in a row as far as these lanes are concerned. And Gen G back out onto the map now, trying to steal away this blue buff, and they will be able to do so.
Notice on the map, though, that Faker's pushing out the top wave. Mid has kind of been sacrificed. No one is actually in a position to catch it. Keria is the one there to try and hold the wave. Guma's going to have to go the long way round. They've gotten push in bot, which means that Chovy's going to go and answer, but ultimately the river has been conceded. Gen G have purchased over that area of the map, while Faker's remaining top has the TP available. Let's see how this one plays out.
Yeah, playing the side lanes very well is Faker, as we can see, going to immediately teleport into the mid lane as that wave crashes forward. Kiin, he's got his teleport up as well, but he's going to be behind the play just a little bit. Is now Keria looking for that opportunity. Hostile takeover, 2 seconds. Now it's back up and available. T1 are ready to fight.
Gen G can choose to give this up. T1 only have a single dragon, but it looks like they don't want to give him the opportunity. Maybe feeling like in the late game they can't match. Gen G gonna try and go for a Hail Mary here.
Yep, Chovy's got a cask at the ready. It is going to be Oner denying that soul, and now T1 starting off the fight. Can Gen G actually find an angle as hostile takeover comes in? Keria, he's tried to bail himself out, and it's going to work for now. The Impale is good. They take down Keria, but can they deal with the carries? That's the question. Chovy starting to pop up, and so is Gumayusi. Chovy's cut down. More arrows into its back, and he knows that it's done. Flashing forward. It's a triple for Guma, and that should be the game.
He still hasn't died!
Oh my, 8 games in a row, I guess, gentlemen.
T1 in the final team fight of game one will snuff out Gen G. A full-on ace at the cost of their jungle and support. The Nexus in their eyes, 30 minutes in. T1 remain the gatekeepers of the World Finals, and they'll say you'll have to try better than that if you want to make it to London.
Nexus turret number 1, Nexus turret number 2, and T1 will take the first game in this best of 5, and we'll see whether Gen G can do better in game 2. So one of the things that I feel was missed, and there was not a lot missed from our teaser today. It was one of Phil's best things ever, but one of the things that was missed is that not only do you have to beat Faker to be the best, you always have to beat Faker to be the best. And they're not quite doing it yet. Faker still remains the GOAT, and he probably will forever. It's time for us to go to a break. When we get back, game number 2, we're going to break down that game number 1.
Install any official LAAAAA Esports mod from GX Store to unlock bonus content and features. Browse the collection and choose a mod. Open GX Corner and scroll to the Riot section with a brand new co-streaming hub. Set your language and choose a stream. Only on the browser for gamers. Only on Opera GX.
And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good, good, good. I just feel so good, good. I just feel so good.
数不清有多少个这样的时刻，闪现向前，焦灼，欢呼，沮丧，再来。没什么比这一刻更好。